This week on Weekly Wonder, we had another fascinating chat with American champion Karl about his changing sentiments regarding the shoe no shoe debate. We spoke with Karl back on episode 6 about his process and thoughts surrounding the barefoot trend in high level sport. But recently, and after some tremendous success with a win in Rome and second place finish in La Bowl, Karl has some new thoughts on the matter. Last time we spoke, we discussed Karol going barefoot. She came to you barefoot. You kept her barefoot. But recently you had to jump on grass. And in order to use studs for traction, you had to put shoes on. So talk us through that a little bit. What kind of shoes and what was that process of actually putting shoes on a barefoot horse?
Well, I mean, the process is easy. You glue them or nail them.
Which one did you do?
For us, we wanted to, we'd never done it before. She'd never had shoes on before. We decided to nail on 3D printed plastic shoes. We went with them because people have this fear of nails and they think glue is always better, but
Okay.
it's not always. The reason we went with nails instead of glue is if you think about it, if your hand is here, and if I flex my hand like this, okay, it can do that. If I take both my hands and my hands are not glued together, I can go like this, but you'll
Yeah.
feel a bit of slide in between your hands because
Right.
one part's stretching and one part's compressing. Where if I glue my hands together, that slide is no longer allowed to happen. And so you actually get a less flexible structure. So the shoe flexes less.
Interesting. Why did you think that the weight was so important to keep light? I mean, again, we're not talking about a tremendous amount of weight. It is a large animal. Did you think that that tiny amount of weight could make a difference?
I believe so. I think, it's as simple as like if you run barefoot, or if you run in a light running shoe, or if you run in a heavy hiking boot, you're going to run three different ways.
When we discussed barefoot, when she was barefoot, when you got her, and we talked about this in the past, you were sort of adamant that maybe the stride length was maybe tiny bit shorter without shoes, but you felt that the scope really wasn't affected when it came to being barefoot or with shoes. Do you still feel that way now that you've had so much success in Rome, in La Bowl with shoes on?
Yeah. So her stride did change, which was what we expected. Um,
Okay.
it did not. I was worried. My main worry was that the stride was going to get significantly longer. Because one of the biggest side effects you have when you go barefoot, shod to barefoot, is that the stride will get too short. I think we have a much more stable stride. It's less of a shuffle, where barefoot she was a bit more shuffly in her canter. And I think with the plastic shoes at these two shows, I can't say any more than that because I don't have the experience.
Yeah.
It was a much more rhythmical stride, a much more stable stride. And I felt like we had more scope. Is that because she actually was pushing harder, or we had a more stable stride on takeoff, so it was just easier to push, or because she was more comfortable to push or land? It's probably a combination of all three.
How does that change the maintenance program? Like now, do you keep the shoes on? It's been going really well. Do you take them on and off? What is sort of your plan going forward with her?
And what we're gonna operate on is we take the shoes off when we don't show, and
Okay.
she does everything as normal. If we go to, say, like a two-star show to get ready for another show, then we'll leave the shoes off.
Okay.
But before a big show, um, whether it's on grass or on sand, we're gonna put the shoes back on.
Now, overall, what would you say your general feelings towards the debate really is?
I mean, first, I think it really matters the horse's conformation and what the stable that has that horse is able to do. Um,
Okay.
you know, if your barn is asphalt and then you have to walk a quarter mile to the ring on gravel, then it's probably not the right
Yeah.
scenario for barefoot. I do believe that these plastic shoes kind of change the conversation a bit. They're also not right for everyone. I believe that we're coming to a point where it's not shoes or no shoes. It's it's more wearing the shoe that meets what the horse is doing. Just like just like us. If I'm going to the beach, I'm taking my shoes off. If I'm going
Right.
hiking, I'm going to wear hiking boots. If I'm going to go for a run, I'm going to wear running shoes. We pick the shoe that is suited for the activity that we're doing.
So tailoring the experience per animal.
Correct.
What about putting front shoes on and keeping the back shoes off? Or putting back shoes on and no front shoes. I mean, we've had this discussion of maybe it's not one or the other, it's some combination of both.
It seems that if you go barefoot in front, you can keep the carefulness, and the shoes behind keeps the stride and the scope. For me, there's so many other things you got to get right first before I would ever say, "Hey, I think you're at a good place to start playing with the shoes."
Wow. Always fascinating to see how riders adapt their program and even change their opinion about controversial topics. It's not always easy to publicly change your stance on a matter, but Horsebites commends Karl for his candidness and willingness to do what is right for his particular horse. The shoe no shoe trend is a hotly debated topic with strong opinions on both sides, but adapting and trying new things is what gives top athletes a competitive edge against their opponents. Whether one opts for shoes all around, only up front or only behind, or entirely barefoot, doing what is right for that specific horse is always key to keeping our horses comfortable and performing at their best.